Hello, and welcome to a playoff edition of Goalie Interference. The Golden Knights did not play very well, but who plays always very well on this show? Mike McKenna of Daily Faceoff. What's up, buddy?
I might play well, but I don't play nice. And I don't think the Golden Knights need to play nice tomorrow night when they hit the ice at home at T-Mobile against the Winnipeg Jets, because you know what? That sucked last night, man.
That was bad. A lot of hits, terrible. Though. They hit them.
Great.
They hit them a lot.
Good. Yeah. I tell you what, dude, I was amped for this game. And across the board, the playoffs has been really intriguing so far. There's been, and by the way, for Golden Knights fans, don't think that they're the only team out there that laid an egg first game, man. Colorado Avalanche just lost to Seattle Kraken. You know what I mean? It's happening here. But what a bummer, dude. I had friends go into the game that I know were just so jazzed, dude. Because obviously last year got sideways. They don't go to playoffs, and you're thinking, all right, it's 1 versus 7 seed at least, whatever it is, and it's just, I couldn't believe my eyes. I haven't seen them give up that many odd man rushes in a long time. The Golden Knights.
Yeah, they're just definitely forcing, just mistakes. I thought a couple of them were directly off of Stone's stick, which. Yep. I guess you gotta live with that if you're going to put him back in the lineup. If he's ever going to be good, he's going to have to get through it. But yeah, it was and it was it wasn't 2-on-1s; it was 1-on-0s that they were giving up.
Yeah, it wasn't good, and it was really just concerning how. Honestly, they had about would you say an 8 or 10 minute swoon in the second period? Latter half of the second
period. The period was pretty bad. And then after the 2 goals went through, they didn't exactly press back out of it. But I thought the swoon started after 5 minutes into the first period, maybe. I thought they got the couple of chances early. And then once Eichel missed that one on the back door, that was pretty much it. There was not a lot of offensive generation from that point forward.
And that's where, it's so easy to take a game like that and say, well, they got Hellebucked, and they didn't get Hellebucked at all. They had 17 shots. But Hellebuck made 2 big-time saves early in the first 5 or 6 minutes, right? And those were the types of shots that if they go in for the Golden Knights, it's such a different outlook, because we've seen them when they score early, how good they can be. And those didn't go in, and it was kind of all right, well, then they just tightened up, and – I don't know. They looked way out of sync to me, dude. I don't know how you felt about. We've thought about this for a long time. I know we'll talk about it, but mixing and matching lines and everything, it just. I don't think it's a chemistry thing. I think that you're just straight up out of sync. And
so I thought the game plan might not have been great, and I guess my concern is. I think they're sticking with it. I don't think it's going to change all that much. So when you look at what I think the main idea of the game plan was, which was let's get the puck in deep. Let's get that first forechecker in there hard and preferably hit them and make sure that we're challenging that second pass as quickly as physically possible. The guy receiving the first pass, do not let him make that second pass easy. That was the idea. 5 minutes into the game, they generated 2 incredibly dangerous chances directly off of that. One of them comes off of Roy, and then the other one comes off of a poke check by Stone. So it worked for 4 minutes. But once they had not scored, then Winnipeg settled into that game and really started to do a lot more defensively, where they were getting to the puck quicker. Hellebuck was playing the puck. They're making quicker decisions. They're more willing to just chip the puck out when they were under a little bit of pressure. They really seemed to settle in. And once they did, Vegas's offense dried up completely because they were constantly willing to chip the puck down into the zone. What was interesting to me today is Cassidy said, I don't think we put it in deep enough, after a game that most of the players that I spoke to said, yeah, we were chipping and chasing a lot.
They were, but they were also putting it into bad areas. They were giving them easy retrievals. And Hellebuck's not even a good puck handler, and they made him look really effective last night. Yep. And that's the difference to me. The Golden Knights are a team that thrives on the rush. We've known this forever. It is their greatest strength. When you throw a wrench into a system that you have to get the puck deep, you have to go to work down low, blah, blah, blah. When your team is just flat out not built to play that way. You're forcing a square peg in a round hole to a certain extent. But I understand why, because like you could go back throughout the year, but I remember one game I was watching, maybe, man, I don't know if it was 2, 3 weeks ago, but it was Minnesota against Winnipeg. And Minnesota just wore them down. But guess what? Where's Foligno chipping the puck? Right in the corner, right? Like, where are these guys that are so disciplined in their third and fourth line roles, and even the second line roles? Like, where are they putting the pucks? They're putting them in the corner. They're putting soft chips to the wall. They're retrieving it off of that. And that's the part of the game of the Golden Knights that it just really hasn't been a strength. It hasn't been there often for them to suddenly think you can flip that switch, and you're tossing Mark Stone back in the lineup with 39 games off. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like, that's I hate what I've seen of people like freaking out about Stone being in the lineup, because he's got to be in the lineup, man. There's no way around it. He has to be. He's the captain of the team. He's healthy. He's been cleared. He's the only guy that, for me, can maybe fix that power play if they could get Theodore to
didn't happen last night, but yeah.
But when that power play was clicking this year, it's because Stone was the guy down low. They were snapping the puck around, bang, bang, boom, get it to the net. And when it
no Eichel at that point.
Yeah, and that's keep him off it. And you know, when they started to get it to work again later, it just turned into, well, just get the puck to Shea and let him shoot it. I felt like, and I'm curious your opinion on this, I really felt like Shea was deferring last night because the plan was still, we've got to get it through Stone and do what we did before. Now, they didn't have enough time to set up in the zone and get that going, a lot of it, but I wonder if that was the case. Do you feel?
I thought Shea was bad. I thought he was bad last night, and I think it started early in that first period. So there was a play along the wall, kind of clipped out towards Shea in a spot where he has buried many a shot over his Golden Knights career. And he kind of picked his eyes up, went to shoot it, puck jumped off of his stick. He had to reset it. I think it might have come all the way out of the zone. And I think that moment kind of threw him off. Remember, he's only played one game. Like, he has not played a lot over the course of or did he play two? Either way, he's not played a lot over the course of the last few weeks. And I just thought I don't think it was a game plan thing, to be honest with you. I feel as though he just didn't have it. He just was not confident in his own game. And when you're not confident in yourself, you get that shot. You don't want to take that shot from the point, rip it into a guy's shins, and give up a 2-on-1 going the other way. So I agree with you 100%. He was deferring. He was not planning on being the main focal point of the power play or even the 5-on-5 play. But to me, it was more so that he did not do a lot right in that game. Like, I rewatched the entire game. He was one of the worst for me for the Golden Knights in that game. And that takes a lot for me to say Shea Theodore is one of the worst, because I think his skating breaks down plays constantly and makes things happen. And it just was not happening last night. So I think he's another one that probably shouldn't skate through this the same way that, you know, without the frustration that's coming towards Stone and Eichel, who actually did make some good plays despite also having some troubles themselves.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I mean, you know, who was the most noticeable forward to you? You know, like, if you're just going to pick one.
William Karlsson.
And to me, that's pretty easy. I think Barbashev had moments where you saw it as well.
So I only liked Barbashev on the play that he scored. Outside of that, I don't remember him playing. Okay. And I've watched the game twice.
I remember the boards, I guess, more. But
maybe.
I guess so. A game like that where you put 17 pucks on the net, it's really tough to figure out who's had a strong game.
I thought Smith was good. I thought Smith was good. Marchessault at different times had a nice game. I thought he started forcing late in the game. But, I mean, it was not a dominant effort from the Golden Knights. By any stretch, by any player, it was hard to find someone who played well.
And they just could not get across the blue line with the puck. Right? Like, just because your game plan is to get it deep doesn't mean you have to. You got to take ice and go with it. And how many times did they get jammed up at the blue line or indecision at the blue line? And it just looked like, honestly, man, it looked like a carbon copy of what Rick Bowness did as head coach of the Dallas Stars. It really did. And that's always been one of the things in the back of my head.
By the way.
whatever.
I mean, he was flat out asked. He was flat out asked, like, do you draw any comparison between this series and that one? And he said, absolutely not. Completely different teams, completely different situations. This is a much different team. No, not at all. Like, he would not go there for a second, but it looked the same to me.
Do you know what the common theme is, though? There's a head coach that's the same. And it's Rick Bowness. Okay. And regardless of the fact, and I said this I put out a piece at Daily Faceoff yesterday, today, that Bowness still knows the personnel of the Vegas Golden Knights. He still knows at their core what they're good at. He still knows what Mark Stone does so well and what Shea Theodore can do. And he's seen Pietrangelo forever. Like, whether you're playing the same system or not, and to me, it's Bowness' system is Bowness' system. That's another theme as well. It's common. Even if the Vegas Golden Knights are playing completely different, which I would argue it's not completely, but it is different. You still know the personnel, and you still know how to shut teams down. And really, that was Bowness' strength, especially in 2020. Like, yeah, they were on a magical mystery tour. Like, they were inspired and doing things you didn't expect in Dallas. And they had a crazy goalie by the name of Hudobin that was just, winging a prayer in it out there. But they also packed the middle of the ice, and they made life hard on the Golden Knights. How many shots did the Golden Knights manage to generate from inside ice last night?
2, 3, 4.
After the first 5 minutes of the game.
Ugh.
Not many at
2.
all. Not enough, that's for
sure. 17 on the game.
Exactly. So Rick can try to downplay it all he wants. Rick was a big factor in this because the Vegas Golden Knights, and I'm looking at it right now for their 17 shots on goal. I'm looking at it on Instat, which is the thing that I have. In that home plate area, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Not
5
good.
shots.
And 2 of them were easily in the first 4 minutes. Yeah.
And there isn't one right in the front of the blue paint. So that means there wasn't a single deflection. That means there wasn't a rebound in tight. That means they didn't win the battles in front of the net. And I think that that's what like Cassidy was really hinting at, was he's just frustrated with the level of, like, yeah, they hit, but the intensity to get to the puck and get it to the front of the net, like, it's almost like their efforts were a little bit diverted from what they needed to be.
That's where Eichel bothered me, and we'll get into Eichel and Stone and kind of discuss where that needs to go. But I want to kind of flip the script a little bit here and start looking at what do they need to do better, because you can't just sit here and say, oh, they're playing the Dallas system and the Bowness system, and it's impossible to score on Connor Hellebuck. That's not true. We know it's not true. This team gives up many goals, so we're going to talk about how exactly they are going to find ways to make this happen and what needs to change. But first, I'm going to tell you the goalie interference and all episodes of this show are brought to you by the Jimerson Law. Wow. Let me try this again. All episodes of goalie interference are brought to you by the Jimerson Law Firm. Jimerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas' preeminent law firms specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, need to do 4 and 6 now. Seek out the Jimerson Law Firm. They are my favorite. I think step one, and it's a very easy step, is better dump-ins, better pressure, more commitment from everybody, even if that does mean taking some risks against their wingers flying the zone, because that's the one kind of tactical piece of the game that I want to dive into a little bit more. But I'll first let you tell me what you think is number one that needs to change for the Golden Knights.
Well, you hit on something that's important because you know they want to get Dubois and Connor going down ice. If Ehlers was in the lineup, he would be included in that. And I think the secondary fact of that is Wheeler and Scheifele, right? And Blake Wheeler showed up, which he's been absent at times this year. But like, to me, it's kind of a combination of things, Ken. Like, I really think that the Golden Knights have to take into account what they were doing and trying to get pucks deep, as simple as this sounds, and overrun a team, because it has been a recipe for success against Winnipeg in the past. If you do that continuously, if you keep the puck in the corners, if you keep it away from the goalie, if you soft chip, if you allow yourself to play with speed and get puck retrievals, you're not only going to get shots on goal in the Jets, you're going to get them chasing the game and frustrated. They don't have the fastest D at all. Like, this is a team that will take penalties. The hard part is that's just not Vegas's game, man. Like, they're not the team that goes in and grinds and creates those, and the power play sucks anyway. So, you're going to have to win this 5-on-5. So, if that's your first priority is still getting it deep, I can accept that. I would still like to see the Golden Knights get across that line with the puck on their blade. And I'm not sure at this stage where that's going to happen because I thought the Winnipeg was really tight in the neutral zone, but I think it really ends up with your exits out of your own defensive zone. And I thought the Golden Knights were sluggish last night with that. I didn't think that they were able to carry that speed out of their own end. You can't gain it through the neutral zone as much as you can when you start off with a head of steam coming out. And that's, for instance, a reference point for our fans. Like that's one thing DeBoer's teams do really goddamn well.
Yep.
They come out of their D zone with speed. And Vegas has players that have enough game sense, enough game feel to live on the rush and be good at it. And I'm talking about Smith, and I'm talking about Eichel, Marchessault, and even Carlson fits that bill. But are they really going to make those drastic moves to get pucks and retrieve and grind and go to the middle of the ice? I think they have to find a new level of that. But I think they also got to stick to their guns, man. They have to exit quicker out of their own zone. If that means going to the high flip occasionally just to push a little bit of pressure back with Winnipeg, like maybe you have to do that. So that's the big thing for me. Like, and work ethic, blah, blah, blah. Like I think they worked hard. I just didn't think that they could accomplish.
I agree. I thought the same thing.
That's where, like, when Bruce gets frustrated, man, sometimes he really starts lobbing things out there. You can tell it. Because I thought that the effort was there, but man, 2 shots on goal in the third, like
not good. Yeah.
Right.
One of the things he typically will point at when they lose games is battles and races. He likes to use that phrase, battles and races, or races and battles. If we win our races and we win our battles, we will win the game. I actually thought they were all right in battles. I didn't think they were bad at all in battles. Races here and there, Kyle Connor won a few of them. I don't think they necessarily won some of those loose pucks in the neutral zone that led to the chances the other way. Intensity-wise, I thought it was fine for the most part. Like there's the one play that I'll tell you, it bugs me. It bugs me. It bugs me. It bugs me. I cannot get off of it. Pierre-Luc Dubois carries the puck into the zone. Eichel goes to defend him and just bounces off. Like, that can't happen. This is playoff hockey. This is your first playoff game in 600 games in your career. That can't happen. It ended up happening. It was the first goal of the game. It leads to another goal a little bit later. That's a huge problem. We'll get to him in a bit. The one example about the exiting the zone is look at the goal. Look at the goal the Golden Knights got. It's a Martinez pass to Pietrangelo, pass to Marchessault, zipping it up the ice. We've got speed through the neutral zone, little chip into the middle. Center wins the race all the way to there's a one race, to the front of the goal. And that's what you need, right? Like that is something that they can do a little bit more of. That is a piece of it that you can say, all right, we can create our own transition. It doesn't have to be them screwing up to get this transition. My challenge, though, is I don't know that simply bumping the puck out better, clearing the puck better, taking that high flip, I'm not sure that's going to lead to as many controlled zone entries as you may. Maybe you're saying that you think it will. Maybe we just disagree there. I still think their neutral zone's going to be pretty locked up. You're going to have to chip it in. And you're going to have to win these games on forecheck. I think they have to win these games on forecheck starting tomorrow, starting immediately.
Yeah.
Like you think they can? You think they can get out of the zone, generating enough speed that they're going to continuously push the Jets back through the neutral zone, take advantage of them pinching forward and being pretty active?
I mean, I think that's a lot of what they did early in the year, But I also think that you've seen. Like Winnipeg's been a strange opponent for the Golden Knights. The games happened in the first half of the year, head to head.
Like third of the year.
Right. And that's when Winnipeg was still pretty good, even though Vegas handled them. And then Winnipeg went on this massive slide in the second half, late in the second half, where I thought they were toast. And they actually came on pretty hot at the end. And I think that's
5 of 6 at home and then won a huge one on the road. Yeah, they were very good. They earned their place in this spot.
And I think that, like, do you think Winnipeg's a heavier team? Because I think they've probably got a certain degree of that. I think Will Carrier would really help.
Forwards are pretty big. Yeah, I mean, that would be nice. They're not getting them back. I don't think he's playing. He's certainly not playing tomorrow. I don't expect him to play before maybe game 5 or 6. He did not skate with the team today. So That's not a good sign. I don't, I mean, he'll help. I think he would help. I think their forwards are a little heavier, but defensively, they're not that big a team. And that's where I think that the game plan, the style of play that they want to get after them, it starts with F1, forecheck one. The first guy in there has to be harder, has to get to the puck before it gets to the goalie. And it just did not happen enough in this game. And honestly, I don't think chipping the puck in is going to work. I just don't.
Well, do you
got to do it, right?
Well, if you say just chipping it in doesn't work, what do you think will work? Is it
they have you're going to have to push them back. You're going to have to force them to move back off the line. And I think starting the game off, chipping it in, getting in there, having that heavy pressure. But I think I'm willing and I think you need to take that risk and make sure that it's just simpler dumps in. And then when they come out, they're eventually going to back off. And that's when you can hit them. That's when you can hit those chances. The only way, and this is the tactical wrinkle that I want to look at, that I do think they can take advantage of it, is when the puck goes along underneath the goal line, when you dump it in, whether it's goalie touching it or not, they love to have the far side winger, weak side, fly the zone. They like getting him out of the zone. I think that's a chance where sometimes the Golden Knights might want to take that risk and hold their ground with their blue liner and say, you know what? We're winning this puck. You're not going to get that puck up there. We're winning this, and we're going to have more numbers on you. And that could potentially lead to quick strike goals in zone.
Mm-hmm. So it puts a lot of pressure on that player, though, that if you fly the zone, man, you got to get back in a big hurry. And that's and you know, the Golden Knights have candidates of players that could do that. You could expect Smith to be good about it. I think Marsh is so for the most part. Eichel, I don't know, you know, so, and
Stevenson's kind of the same question. Yeah.
They make me nervous. Like there's no getting around that. So, I mean, in all honesty, I think really coming out as slow as they did was pretty surprising for me with Vegas.
But they didn't, though, right? They did. I mean, they didn't.
But
they
didn't
get the two best chances
to bury,
right
it wasn't
there.
sustained. It wasn't sustained. It was that first 5 minutes, right? And
didn't score one of those goals, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like coming out hot to me is like it's a full 8-10 minutes worth of onslaught. It's not getting outshot and chanced in the first period, right? Because your metric as a player is going into the room. How do you feel when you go in the room? After that first period, I don't think the Golden Knights felt good about that. They didn't.
Yeah, shouldn't have.
No, they get a couple chances, and they were lucky it was nothing. Like
twice.
Winnipeg,
yeah.
You're giving up these odd man rushes against, which if you're arguing for more, you know, aggressive offense that way, you can't give up these chances.
But they gave up the chances without having any offense. So to me, we have to take more risk, because if they're going to get those chances without us generating a ton of offense, why not push that risk a little bit further and say, well, maybe they'll get some the other as well, but we have to generate something. We have to get more than 17 shots. We have to generate more of a forecheck. Otherwise, we'll never have the puck in the offensive zone. That's what happened in game one.
But I think that it's going to be a stick to your guns type of thing, because this team's been a winner all year. And the hard part is we both know this, that the underlying numbers don't show that this team should be a winner. They don't. 16th
and they did again. They did again.
16th in goals for. They well outshot this season. Their actual goals for well outpaced their expected goals for. It's just not like there are teams that are like that, but it's still kind of one of those. It doesn't necessarily say a team is good or bad. Okay. But it is, to me, kind of it's a litmus test warning sign. The teams at the bottom, they don't outshoot their expected goals for. Okay. You know what I mean? Like it's a fine line. I'm kind of lost with it in some instances, because I think they really just have to play their game better and be smarter with the puck and when they're working it out. Like, I don't think you fix this by just going aggressive. Like, you have to stick to your guns because you have to play better defense. Like, they still allowed 5 goals last night, 4 of them with a goalie in the net, you know? Yeah. And
I don't care about the last one. It's a power play goal. They're not paying attention. I don't care about the last one.
That was the whipped cream on the dog turd, man. That just was brutal. People were already leaving. And by the way, how about the fans leaving at a 3-1 game with like 2 minutes left? I'm sorry, dude.
I mean,
Like
to
this
me,
irks
so
me.
here's the thing. I agree that also does bother me. And I think you're asking for trouble if you do that, especially if you actually walk out that front door. If you want to go up to the concourse and try to win the race out in case they don't score, fine. But if you step foot out the front door, you're taking a big risk there. But to me, it was the power play. Winnipeg took a too many men penalty where they just flat out had six
Silver
guys
platter.
skating
Here you
around the
go.
defensive zone. Right? Like,
Yep.
here you go. Here is a goal to give yourself a chance to pull your goalie and tie this game up and completely flip the script on this game. And the Golden Knights were horrific on that power play, and the fans let them hear it. Like this is one thing that I do want to bring up is that we've done this show. This is what, episode 29 of this season. We've done this all season long. We've been through a 111-point team. There were ups, there were downs, there were more ups than downs, but we've always had that underlying belief of like, when we get to the playoffs, is the scoring going to still be there? Are you going to get the goals from the Michael Amatios and Brett Howdens and these types of players? They did not. And that's been a concern that we've had all along. And to me, that's going to bring us to our next topic, which is Mark Stone and Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel's probably the easier one to talk about because there's a reason to believe Mark Stone was not going to be quite himself. The puck's jumping off his stick. He looked gassed on the bench after his very first shift. None of this is abnormal. None of this is surprising. All of this is hopefully to make him better by game 4, game 5, game 6, and if we make it to game 7. That's the idea. Eichel's a bigger problem. Outside of carrying the puck into the offensive zone and getting slashed across the hands when he's going 1-on-3, which did happen, we'll take that all day long. Other than that, what really did he do that made this team better?
Better? That's the hard part. And
Not
that's
a
what
lot.
I think a lot of the frustration comes from. Like, if we want to talk about why fans are pissed, how many times have we seen this story? Scoring dries up, power play's terrible. We got a brand new shiny player that all of a sudden isn't performing. And this isn't, I don't want to say isn't performing just yet, right? It's the first game of a series, man.
It's one game. It's one game. Yeah,
it's unfair for anybody to characterize that as, hey, this guy sucks in playoffs or anything. But again, it's warning signs, right? It's going out and being on the ice 3 times when they're going the other direction. It's not taking care of the puck the way you should. Is Jack, they went out and got Jack because they needed a premier center. They needed a premier elite center. They had to have him. They had to have Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel isn't a game breaker at the NHL level. Like, when you compare him to the top 25, 30 players in the league, those are game breakers. It's not what he is. He's not a put the puck on your blade and let him go to work and finish this whole thing single-handedly. It's going to happen 2 or 3 times a year. But it's going to come back the other direction like it did last night too. So
is he better than the other number 1 Steve? That's step 1. Yesterday, he was not. It was very clear Pierre-Luc Dubois was better than Jack Eichel.
That whole line
was. Yep. That doesn't have to continue. That can change. The Golden Knights can get more out of Jack Eichel, that he can generate a little bit more. Question being, I didn't particularly love Barbashev's game. I didn't like Marchessault's game that much until he ended up with the Misfits. They're going back to that. We're going back to that same group. We're going back to Amadio, Stevenson, and Stone, and we're going back to Kessel playing with the Misfits, which to me is a mistake. And the reason that's a mistake is because you cannot rely on him in every single dangerous situation. And I expect that first line to give them troubles. I expect these lines to get jumbled up within the first 15 minutes again tomorrow. What are your thoughts on going back to that lineup?
Well, that's only if things don't go well. So, I mean, that's thinking that it's not going to work. So
not necessarily. I think it might be 0-0 and they'll switch it.
I'm hesitant
not necessarily
for that.
Going poorly. Happened last night.
I do think that Barbashev and Eichel need to stay together. I mean, to me, that those two have been best when they're with one another. And Stone and Stevenson is old faithful, right? But we're back to this conundrum we had at the start of the year. Where do you put Phil? And is Phil going to submarine the Misfits, who were the only line that accomplished really anything last night? That's my
Right.
concern. And because you have to have in the playoffs 2 lines going, period, man. You have to have 2 lines that you know are going to go out there and at least not hurt you.
Probably need 3.
Well, but I mean, it's a game, right? Like every team's going to have. If you have 2.5 lines out there that aren't going to hurt you, the other team's got 2 lines, right? Like if you have 3, man, you're in business, and that's what we saw last night.
Right.
That's why
what you're trying to do. That's how you're trying to win. Correct.
That's why it was a shit kicking. But the 4th line was non-existent last night. Yeah, they had some hits, but like didn't generate anything. They might not have been. I mean,
very first shift. It was their second shift. It was their 4 minutes in. Watt makes a good play, and they get a chance, and Howden doesn't bury it.
I mean,
other than
we
that,
know that Phil, Jack, and Barbashev, that's not happening. So if your misfits are there together, I don't know. This has been the problem all season long. Is I feel like everything's been in a blender, and they just managed to keep winning games. And I couldn't quantify why or how a lot of the time, but Mike Amadio, plan E on the left side where he is now with Stevenson and Stone. Is that line going to work with one guy that can skate? Really? Right. I mean,
they created one good chance, and Amadio got the puck off his stick pretty quick. Hellebuck came across and made a good stop. It's one of the rare few plays that Stone made that was really good. But yeah, it's another one. And then that kind of brings to matchups. And I'm going to publish a story tomorrow kind of showing each matchup decision the Golden Knights made each different time that they had the opportunity. And for the most part, it was let's keep Eichel away from Dubois and Connor and Scheifele. And didn't work. It just didn't work.
And it's shocking because Dubois, like that guy goes missing, dude. Like he's had games where he was non-existent. This is a guy that in Columbus
he doesn't in the playoffs usually, though.
Right. I tell you what, he's the biggest conundrum, dude. I would not want him on my team. Pierre-Luc Dubois. And then he goes out and he goes into like this dominant mode for a while, and you're like, God, if you could get him inspired.
I do want him on my team, yeah.
If he gets this inspired when he becomes a member of the Montreal Canadiens because it's his home Provence and that's where he wants to be, watch out. But, what's the common denominator of that top line for Winnipeg, Ken? Like if you just filter it as much as you possibly can, Dubois, Connor, Scheifele even.
Skill, speed.
They can skate. Yeah.
Yeah.
They can skate. Connor and Dubois, they can both move and they're powerful. Like Dubois and Scheifele are powerful players on the puck. And they ate them up, man. Like that top pairing was ugly last night. And I think it's not just a willingness thing, it's a tactical thing. Like these Connor and Dubois, like they've played together enough that it's pretty well oiled with them, right? Scheifele kind of in that same boat. So Scheifele had 43 goals this year, man. Yeah, I couldn't even believe it when I saw that stat.
I actually thought Scheifele wasn't great last night. I thought he had a couple of chances to bury a goal and put
Wheeler,
that game away.
Wheeler was the one that Wheeler was the one that kind of caught my eye. I haven't been high on Wheeler this year.
Yep.
And I thought he was for sure. So
I'm just now that I'm thinking what. Go ahead.
I just thought in my mind right now, and it's God, that was gross when Morgan Barron faced a skate. I couldn't watch the replay, and it was brutal.
I was happy it was up here. It could have been a lot worse.
I was just happy he didn't lose an eye
across the cheek or something like that. Yeah, that could have been
the only thing that scared me. The only thing that scared me when I played was skate blades, man, and it just terrifies me when I see somebody in that type of predicament because, anyway, it turned out okay. Yeah, I'm sure he's going to have a hell of a scar to show for it.
Yeah, he is. For me, like Wheeler did the thing that they were trying to get him to not have to do for them to be good, and that was basically drive the line offensively. Nemesnikov is excellent in his own end. Nemesnikov makes the right play most of the time. He's in the right place almost all the time. And Niederreiter, you can say the same thing about. Niederreiter does have a little bit more offense to his game. I do think that he had a good game yesterday as well, but most of the offense was being driven through Blake Wheeler, and he was the one going to the front of the goal. He was the one putting the pressure on the Golden Knights defense. And my concern with that is like, what's it going to look like when Ehlers comes back and the line's being driven by someone other than Blake Wheeler? And he can do a lot more than what Blake Wheeler can even do. And he can kind of utilize Blake Wheeler as as a sidecar as opposed to being the main
Even if they
driving
get Cole
force.
Perfetti back too. Yeah.
Right. And Perfetti does not seem to be all that close. I would be surprised if he plays in this series. I do think Ehlers is going to play, but I don't think he's going to play until they lose. So I would imagine he will not play tomorrow. There was a tweet today that said he was a full participant in practice until they did power play drills, and he did not participate in the power play drills. He would be on the power play if he were going to play. So I don't think he's coming back. As far as the Golden Knights injuries, for those who wanted the updates on that. 3 guys did not skate: Brossoit, Martinez, and McNabb. McNabb was said to have a personal day. I know that there's a baby on the way at some point. I don't know if that's actually happening or what, but that one seems to be nothing, not even injury related. Martinez, we have to assume, is probably going through your classic Martinez playoff thing where he's probably already banged up. He's going to get more banged up, but he's probably going to play the entire way. Brossoit is interesting to me, giving him the day off after that one when you decide to go back to practice. I think it's the worst idea. Get the other 2 reps, not have one of them share it.
Fine.
But for him to not be out there was definitely interesting to me. And no Carrier, no Thompson, and no Dorofeev, which Dorofeev skated with the Black Aces today, and there were extra skaters on the ice, Cotter, Bluger, so they had some extra skaters. They are not going to Dorofeev right away or probably anytime soon. At least that's how it appears at the moment.
I do wonder if Bluger shows up in the lineup.
I thought he might go in. I thought he might go in right away, and the reason I thought that was because they were not very good in the circle, and I thought that they were going to go to the lines that they landed on. And once they landed on those lines, I think they ran out of centers where Wah had to move up. Stevenson becomes a winger, and you run out of that center. You decide you have to put Howden in there. They don't love doing that. I thought you might see Bluger instead of Howden in this next game.
That's what I was thinking.
In the end, it's probably, we've had 2 weeks knowing that the Jets were a possibility, and then we had 4 days knowing that it was the Jets. This was what we thought was going to be our best option. We gave it 22 minutes. Why are we going away from that immediately? I get that line of thinking, but if you're going to go away from it in 22 minutes, why are we going back to it? Why are we so sure that it's going to work the next time? I'm not.
It's just surprising to me to see a guy they traded for and pumped the tires of endlessly, like sitting on the sidelines here. And I mean, that's just how things work generally. Like when you go
I'm not shocked by it. I'm not shocked by it. Yeah.
I mean, he did the same thing with Nick Cousins too, but it kind of a spare part mentality. But I don't know, like Howden to me just hasn't. There's glimpses here and there. And last year, man, he had a really solid season, but this year was just more of what I expect from him.
So let's kind of touch on what happens here series wise, just the series dynamics of all of this. And I'll put Jason up while we do this. The Golden Knights have been here before. They've lost game 1. They've lost a game 1 at home. They lost game 1 in round 1 at home last time to a Minnesota team that they were expected to beat. This is not a place the Golden Knights have never been before. However, they've never lost game 2 at home. They have lost game 2 on the road to go down 2-0. They've never lost game 2 at home, and they've only been in the 2-0 hole once. I'm not a must-win guy until it's actually a must-win. I'm not on must-win here, but it's pretty high. I guess my question will be, if you have to put it on a 1 to 10, if you started the series at 0, no panic at all, they're going to win the series, which I think we all thought they would. Where's the panic level now?
8.
8? That's very high.
Because, I mean, if you're going down 2-0 and you're heading into Winnipeg, I think all 3 of us agree it's going to be wild, whatever. So,
wait, is it 8 assuming they win, or assuming they lose? Are you saying 8 if they lose, or are you saying 8 right now, April 19th, 7:40 p.m.?
You got to win that game tomorrow, because I don't think you can go into Winnipeg down 2, expecting to, win both, and then come back and then win that one, all against Connor Hellebuck. Especially when you're not scoring.
Right. I'd probably be at a 7. I don't think it's end of the world territory, but I wrote it today. Like, they got visited by the Ghost of Christmas Past yesterday, and they better hope that the Ghost of Christmas Present gives them a chance at redemption, because the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come You don't want to see that guy if you've lost 2. Okay.
Right.
Because I actually feel like as much of a run as this team's been on for a lot of the year, I think there's a chance that if they lose 2, they get real fragile. I think there's a chance at that. And I think a lot of that has been because of a lot of the uncertainty with line matching and stuff. It just feels like you're starting to throw spaghetti at the wall, and this is where Ken, I really like, I push back a bit that you still have to stick to your game plan and what's gotten you there and stick to your defense and let that try to win for you, because it has been the team's best asset all year long. You can't abandon that. But it's a different dynamic, man. Stone's back in the lineup. You haven't had him there forever. Like, he is your captain, but it's a different complexion to the team, and there's no way around that. And again, I am not on board saying take Mark Stone out. No chance in hell.
No, I'm not either.
It's different. And I think he's going to take 2 to 3 games. That's why even if they drop the next game, I'm not at a 9 or a 10 or even an 8, because I think by game 3, Mark's going to be Mark for me. But it's a short window here, man. You get down 2 games and you are in a hole. It is not easy to come back from that.
That's a lot to ask from Mark. I mean, if they're down 0-2 going into game 3, now everybody's expecting peak Mark Stone. And if it doesn't happen, I mean, I don't know. I find it a little unfair because my expectations aren't as high, I think, as everybody else's.
I don't think we're getting peak Mark Stone this season. I don't think it's going to happen in the playoffs. I just don't think that there's enough time and just the challenge that's going to be put his way that we wouldn't see in a regular season, where you can protect him and teams are like, whatever, we'll figure it out. We're on the road. No big deal. Where this is like every single game, there's going to be him circled on the board, because I still think he is the number 1 weapon, more so than Eichel. We stop him, we're in good shape. And I think that's going to be the case. And I don't know that that's an easy enough thing to work through, that he's going to come off of 2 back surgeries in 9 months and all of a sudden be that guy, especially by game 3. I'm not sure it happens at all. I do think he gets better than what he was last night, but I'm not sure it happens at all.
I'll put it this way. I'm more concerned for the long term of Mark's career than I am for this moment right now, because I think it's purely a matter of his mind and his game feel catching up to being on the ice again. It really is for me. You can skate as many laps as you want and everything. It's just your game feel. And it was one outing that we saw. So, I
mean, there's also the fact that, like, he has had multiple surgeries. He has broken down in the past. It's not crazy to think it's the glory days have passed here.
Like, that's what I mean. Like, I hate that this is morbid talk, man. Right? I hate that it's a morbid talk, but it's real. You've had a guy with 2 back surgeries, man. And there's nobody I root for more in the world than this guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's the ultimate, like,
he's
pro
awesome.
teammate.
He's the best. Yeah. And he stands up after losses and all of it. Yeah.
So just real quick here, we have a comment.
Yeah.
All right, let me hit this real quick because we've got a comment here in that just from Rising Star saying the Jets exploited all of Brossois' weaknesses and former teammate. And now I actually agree that I think this was part of it to a certain extent. I didn't think Brossois, I didn't think he was great last night. I thought he made a couple of nice saves in the first, but I also thought he had a horseshoe up his ass in the first. There were 2 or 3 absolute Code Brown moments, guys. And you know what I mean by Code Brown moments, right? Like,
I don't, but
reference.
I can guess.
Yeah, Code Brown, you shit your pants. Like, the puck was bouncing around.
Okay.
The puck is bouncing around in the crease or off the post, and like, he doesn't know where it is. Like, and against Winnipeg, it knows him that well. Dubois knows, okay, we're going to go in. His hands are going to drop. We're going to take this sucker upstairs. He's not going to track it. And I do not think that Brossois was a negative effect on this game. I don't think he cost them the game by any stretch. But he still allowed 4, and I think he probably had a pretty good shot at 2 of those. Not saying he makes it every time, but this is the difference for me between elite and good goaltending. And I think that Brossois is a good goaltender. I don't know if he has that elite level in him to keep a team in a game like this. If this is a 2-1 game as opposed to a 3-1 game, guys, getting towards the end, I think Vegas can tie. You got a way better chance of tying that. Obviously, it's 1 goal, but I feel like the vibe's different there. So Some of his puck handles weren't good last night.
Dubois brought him up.
Not good at all.
Dubois brought up Brossoit last night after the game, and unfortunately, it was in French, so I didn't get to understand completely. But there was a little bit of we understand where his weaknesses and strengths are, so it clearly was a factor.
So then moving forward, you're saying stick to the game, stick to defending, play that style of where we're just going to defend our butts off the entire game. Are they going to generate enough offense against a better goaltender than the one that they have in their own goal if they play that style? To me, they have to find a way to generate a ton more offense. I don't think you could just sit in the shell and hope.
No, I don't think so either, man. But it just, like I say, you can't start to. All you're advocating for is to just basically press. And if you press, man, with this team, some of those forwards, I don't like it. You want Phil Kessel to press or Jack Eichel to press, like even with you have voice of reason like Stone on the bench, like that's the way things start to head. You don't want that.
And not to mention,
like shut them down.
Yeah.
And if you're asking for more shots from the defense, they're just going to be blocked. So I mean, you have to get those guys in front of the net.
Yeah, they had plenty.
Right, before I talk about
last night too.
Yeah, he did. Before we talk about the late first controversy of the series, hopefully there are many more. I love a good series controversy, and this one is a doozy. We have to get to the one piece of news that happened today. I found it a little bit out of left field, at least for me. I didn't think it was going to happen. I will shout out our buddy and former columnist on the site, Steve Karp, for calling it 3 days ago, saying this is what's going to happen. Manny Viveros let go from the organization, quote unquote, mutually agreed to part ways. I have a hard time believing that that's actually what happened, but maybe it is. Maybe he's got a better job, different opportunity. It is possible. That is simply sometimes a way to say, yeah, we are not going to renew his contract. Let's call it that. I'm a little bit surprised by this. I don't think he was handed a great roster. I think he was handed a young roster that didn't have a lot of really defensive upside in regards to stopping chances against. I think there's some defensive upside in regards to scoring, but I didn't think he was handed a roster that was going to be great in the AHL. They were not. They were, in fact, very bad. But the bigger piece to me is they sent a lot of guys up to the NHL. They were all pretty good. Not great, but they were all right. And then down the stretch, the Silver Knights got better. A lot of players got better. You know, a guy like Acheka got a lot better. Korzak was getting better. Cormier got better. Brisson definitely was getting better. To me, this is a bit of a surprise, and I'm not entirely sure why this happened.
Here's the hard part, because I've done as much digging as I possibly can today, and I don't know what's going on. I wish I could just tell, because Manny also had colon cancer, right? Prostate cancer this year.
Yep.
You know, so hey guys, we don't know, man. Maybe Manny said, I just had a big health scare. I need to be closer to home.
Don't you feel like that would have been mentioned?
But wouldn't he have taken a lesser role, Mike?
There isn't a lesser role for these guys in the American League. You're the coach.
I feel like it would have been in the press release. I really do. I think it would have been in the release if it was health related.
Didn't it sound very much like, okay, it's run its course? It sounded like what it sounded like to me. Yes. Which to me is just, I mean, I was talking with some buddies about this that played in the American League forever, like I did, and we're just like, man, this poor guy gets cancer this year. The team was the cat's ass for a couple of years when they actually paid veterans to be there and play for this team. And now they suck because they don't have a prospect pool. They didn't have the same type of veterans that they had in the past. And you can a guy who just had cancer all year. Like, that's what the optic of it is now. But I don't know if that's the case or the truth. I really don't want to just dive on that, but it just feels like, I mean, I really enjoyed working with that entire staff. And
he's awesome. He's a great guy.
From Manny to Jamie Heward to everybody, Freddie Brath, like that crew in Henderson was great. And I could sense that Manny is somebody who really, he really took a lot of pride in the development aspect of this game, you know, and is it results based? Yes. But you still got to develop. And if you don't have the horses to do it, like, guys, you want to go around the American Hockey League and look at the veterans that are on teams. Like,
right.
This Henderson team I'm looking at right now, like, I mean, look at their D. Like the only veteran D they had for the most part was Bischoff, and he's a homegrown guy. Like
Yep.
that's it, dude. Like
Yeah.
Doesn't Manny deserve a little credit too to have the goaltenders kind of ready at any time for the Golden Knights to pluck? I mean, I know that Aiden was not great, and I know that, or at least the numbers for Brossoit and Aiden weren't great, but they were ready to go when the Golden Knights needed them, and they came in and played well with the big club. So I think he deserves a little credit with that as well.
Yeah, I think Freddie Brathwaite does for sure. I mean, that group there is, geez. I mean, they got Jonas Rombjerg how many games in the NHL, right?
Right.
And some other guys like Jake Lecision, who is off to greener pastures now. But there's been a lot of, to me, that Henderson team has featured a lot of mid to low level NHL prospects who have played meaningful games that I didn't expect. And I don't think it was just a numbers thing at every moment. Lecision and Rombjerg at one point were looked at like, we think they might be able to do this because they've shown well. And Lecision gets picked up and Rombjerg and kind of goes by the way. But, look at the second half of the year for Brisson, way better, right? Like coaches play a big factor into this. Yeah. And
I'm a little surprised that you said results, right? Results matter. That is accurate. Like results do matter at the AHL level. You need to make playoff games. You need that extra money.
I think so. Well, I mean, the money isn't. Which money are you talking about? Because there's.
Well, I would imagine there's some playoff revenue.
There's playoffs for the players get bonuses and for making.
I'm talking more for the ownership. Teams.
I don't think it's that's as much the case. It is results based. What typically gets coaches canned in the American League is either the team is terrible or the culture's bad, or this is the kicker, guys. If they go rogue with the systems and they don't want to play nice with the head coach at the top level. I know that's gotten guys fired this season. I mean, that Belleville, Ontario, Ottawa, like it just, there was.
Oh yeah, that was a little shock, right?
Big time. You want a guy who could fit this role in Henderson? Troy Mann is one hell of a coach. And development.
When I went to Silver Knights games, they played. Yeah, the Silver Knights played like the Golden Knights. They played the zone defense style. They played their power play looked the same. I thought it looked the same. However, I can admit I did not study it enough over the course of the last month that I'm not comfortable saying one way or the other. I do know when he first came in, when there was a coach change, it was very clear they were planning on running the exact same system. So I have a hard time believing it's that. I do think it's very possible, as John says, could it have been a health thing? I think that's very possible. I'm not ruling that out at all. I think it's very possible he could have said, you know what, contract's up. I got to get this thing figured out. I don't want to hold you guys up or whatever. I feel like that's perfectly possible. And maybe he says that later. I do believe, though, if that was the case, I think that should have been mentioned right away so that there isn't speculation like we're doing right now that they kind of parted ways with a guy that did have a health scare and, in my opinion, was not given a great roster to win. I don't think that's
he wasn't
a problem.
Given a great roster. I know that league as well as anybody.
Right. I don't care if you win personally. Like, that's fine to me. I thought he did a pretty good job of bringing some of these players along. Jason makes a great point about the goalies. That's it. Anybody have last words on Manny before we get into our controversy, as they say overseas?
I just like the guy. So whatever the case is, I really hope he gets a good shake somewhere because he'll be really
back in hockey.
Yeah, and I thought he was a pretty highly thought of for that job in a lot of ways. Even though they kind of shotgun wedding the entire thing, I thought he had some juice behind him. So surprised by it, but it's Vegas too, man. You get one bad year. I could see Bill Foley going, "Why the hell is our minor league team losing?" Well, he's got to go.
Yeah, but they were them and Coachella made the most money in the AHL. So, I mean, realistically, Bill can't argue in that sense because he's getting money, whereas normal AHL teams don't make money.
He wants to win, though, man.
He doesn't care.
All right, so let's
Calder Trophy,
on.
does
Earlier,
it still wins and losses, man. Yeah. You want
earlier today. The newest 32 Thoughts podcast published. That's Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick at Sportsnet. It's fantastic. If you don't listen to it, highly recommend it. Maybe finish this one first, but then go over to that one. We would appreciate it. Jimerson Law Firm would appreciate it. It's a very good podcast. One of the most plugged in people in the entire sport is Elliot Friedman. They did a segment on each series after one game, and their segment about the Golden Knights game, obviously a lot to do with the Jets, a lot to do with what went right for the Jets, what did not go right from the Golden Knights, all of that good stuff. And then at the end, before they went away, Elliot went out of his way to mention something that he wanted to bring up. This was not something that kind of just happened. He seemed to want to get this into the podcast. And he said that similar to what happened in 2018, and if you don't remember what happened in 2018, the Golden Knights would not turn the lights on for the Jets' morning skates until exactly the time that the Jets were supposed to start. They would not put the goals in the goal. They would not turn the lights on, so the Jets were not able to go out early if they wanted to do so. That is something that is not exactly uncommon in the NHL in the playoffs. It's not uncommon in juniors or AHL. It is something we have seen before. We'll talk about it in a second. This time, the accusation is effectively that the bike pedals were taken off of an exercise bike outside of the Jets locker room so that the bike was not usable outside of the locker room. That was the accusation. Elliot had a GM call him and tell him about it. It was mentioned a couple of times on the Winnipeg version of the broadcast last night. It's definitely been brought up. It definitely seems to have some legs behind it until we saw this tweet earlier today. I'll get the rest of this off of there so we can read it. This is Mike McIntyre, who is in Vegas. He said, I saw some chatter out there about the Jets having their exercise bikes possibly missing pedals here in Vegas at T-Mobile Arena. Looked into it today. It's a non-event. One of the bike has a broken pedal. Others are fine. Saw players using them carry on. So I think we do need to put the immediate caveat, no matter what, of this entire conversation could be over an accidental bike pedal that was not fixed in time, or maybe it broke literally yesterday right before the game and people overreacted. However, Elliot Friedman going with it and getting a call from a GM leads me to believe that there is a possibility something is at work here. There's some dark arts, as we like to call it in soccer here, at work. Explain to me what your take is, hearing it, what you think about the possibility that it's real, any of it. Just give me your quick take on what happened here. What's going on?
You think Elliot Friedman runs with anything on 32 Thoughts that he doesn't know is absolutely rock solid? Because it's going to blow up in his face if it doesn't. Simple as that. And here's the thing.
It's a recorded show. That's important to note. It's a recorded show. It's not like this one where if we say something dumb, we may issue an apology later and say,
That's
well,
right.
we were live. I shouldn't have said that dumb shit. This is a recorded show that has a producer. He's great.
And not only that, but Friedman brought up that the general manager that called him was on the phone with another general manager who made him so pissed off that he had to call Elliot. So not only that, there's not only one GM involved, there's multiple. And listen, I don't believe that tweet. In my opinion, I might be overreacting. I do not believe it. I believe that the Golden Knights did do some sort of goofy, whatever you want to call dark arts. Okay. Yeah, I don't. I do not believe the tweet. So,
guys, this is it for me.
Let me go ahead.
You know what? There was a lot made of the lights situation in 2018, and you know what? I actually could care less about that because they didn't do anything wrong. The Golden Knights. They kept the lights off. They didn't let the Jets on until their ice time was supposed to start. I understand that that's really not common practice, and it's a chiseler play, all right?
You're a $700 million organization, and you're pulling this shit?
I get it, but you know what? You're not supposed to be on the ice until a certain time, and the other team has the right to use the ice however they see fit. Like, that's the way it is. There are rules in the CBA on what are provided for the visiting team. They have to provide a weight set. They have to provide medicine balls. They have to provide bikes, working bikes. Fix the goddamn bike. So this tweet that he sent out makes me even more angry because he he poo-pooed the whole situation here, McIntyre did, by saying, one bike has a broken pedal, but the others are fine. It still has a goddamn broken pedal. Fix it. Like, you're not supposed to have broken workout equipment for the visiting team in the National fucking Hockey League. All right? Like, that's the most Mickey Mouse Jr. shit on earth. If you have broken pedals on a bike, that there's no way that pedal broke yesterday or today between games magically. It's been broken for a while. If that was the case, fix it or get a new bike. It's mandated in the CBA. This isn't junior hockey. Like, just do it, man. So that
Mike,
makes me mad.
And I was just going to just follow up real quick. Don't you think that Mike or somebody else asked the organization, asked, Bowness, asked some players, and they probably just acting like professionals, probably like, it's not a big deal, because they've already moved on to game 2. So like in that tweet, it could have been somewhat truthful, where to the players, the way they answered them, it wasn't a big deal. But we all know this is dark, whatever, gamesmanship.
It's just petty. It is. But it's within your rights to do that stuff with the lights if you want. It's going to come back around and bite you anyway.
But
it's
why
not how
do
things
it?
typically work.
How does that give you
It doesn't give you any advantage. And that's why I'm like, but I'm very much a rules guy. You guys know this, man. Like, I am so literal in how I interpret things, that if I see in the rule book that it goes, you have this amount of time, then fuck the other team. I could understand that. My dad won national championships in racing because he cheated better than anybody else. You know what I mean? Like, he toed the line of aerodynamics. And this is my mindset. So I think I'm different than that. You cannot have broken workout gear for the visiting team. That's utter trash. That's simple as that for me. If they want to put out a statement to clarify that, why they somehow have a broken pedal on a bike, that'd be just lovely, because there's no excuse for that. It seems so small, but I'm telling you, you get a guy who rides the bike every single game for 10 minutes before the game, and he trots out there and the bike doesn't have a fucking pedal that works in the NHL. God, I'm cursing a lot here. I apologize, Jim Jimerson of the Jimerson Law Firm. Like, what are we doing?
Mike, aren't they on in between the periods as well?
Yes, they use these things all the time. That's why they have to be working order. These are things to me,
I have two different kind of takes on this. Number one is I just don't like how it looks in regards to, like, this is one of the buildings with the best ice in the league. This is one of the buildings with the better away locker rooms. You get one of the best hotels. You get whatever you need. Typically, we have opportunities to skate at either of these practice rinks. You could skate at T-Mobile. It's typically one of the more comfortable places. And I feel like when you have that on your side and you're still winning and it's not affecting you, that it almost like verifies or validates whatever, even more of what you're doing. So to hear that that's not the case bugs me out and bums me out a little bit. I don't say bugs me. It just kind of bums me out a little bit, because it's like, what are we doing? Like, we should have top of the line stuff. Let's continue being the top of the line organization. That our visitor locker room is so nice that some people think it's too nice because it's too big and they're too far away. Like, that's kind of how I view it. And I wish it were more of that. So that just kind of bums me out a little bit if that is the case. I don't know how long the pedal's been broken, if the pedal bothered anybody. There were other bikes. You have a better opinion on all of that. The part that I will say that is interesting to me is, if this was done purposely, if they knew it was broken, they knew the Jets were coming in, and probably knew historically the Jets use all of the bikes. There's a broken pedal there. If this was done in any way purposely, to me, that shows an incredible lack of confidence in your own team. I think it shows a massive lack of confidence in, we need to try these dark arts. The term dark arts is like a loving term used in soccer. It's very common that, like, they send dogs out onto the field in Honduras and they throw bags of pee at them in Puerto Rico, or where I shouldn't throw Puerto Rico, whatever. I think it was Costa Rica that happened. It's like, in soccer, it's like part of the game and people celebrate it. The worst one the American team did was they made Honduras play in negative 20-degree weather in Minnesota in February, and multiple guys got hypothermia. That was the Americans' dark arts. Nonetheless, back to this. I just think the lights thing, the bike pedal, any little thing that you're trying to do, especially in a 1 versus 8 matchup where you have the first 2 games at home, if you're doing this shit, you don't trust that your team's going to win. You think you need every little advantage that you can possibly have. And this is a team that also just activated Mark Stone on the exact day that they were allowed to activate him, which is also borderline dark art stuff. I will defend the shit out of that move. I promise you. I will defend that to my death here, something I did not do last season right when it happened. I will defend it this year. I do not think they did anything wrong on this one. However, I don't love this because if you head up to Winnipeg, it should all be there. If you want to go on the ice 30 minutes early, you should be allowed to do so. Act like you want to be treated in the road building and do it here. And if they do it back, just get mad about it and play better. Maybe that's what made the Jets play better last night, and maybe it backfired on them. I don't know, but I just think it shows a lack of confidence if this is inaccurate. If it's actually not a thing and this was a mistake that, like Chris says, the $13 an hour paid maintenance dude, which is, by the way, horribly mean to that $13 an hour maintenance dude. That guy's got to make at least 26. If that's the case, then all right, no problem. Accidents happen. I don't have a problem with it. But if there's any semblance of doing it on purpose, I don't like it.
But you
Chris,
even said it. You said it bummed you out, Ken, right? The news. Well, think about it. Nationally, the conversations before game 1 are the Golden Knights activated Mark Stone. They're trying to cheat. And then the conversations before game 2 are, oh, they did cheat by stealing pedals off the bike. I'm not saying that all of this is correct or actually, factual. I'm just saying these are the national conversations that happen.
Yeah. I love Chris. Okay. Chris is one of our greatest supporters. He asked great questions. Chris, you asked great questions. I appreciate everything. Wholeheartedly disagree with you on this, and that's okay. We're friends. People are friends. We can talk about this. These are things that have been collectively bargained and agreed upon and signed off upon by teams, by players, that these things are supposed to be there for the players. There is a checklist for these things to make sure. There are NHL supervisors around. The fact that you can have a bike without pedals when that is clearly within what is supposed to be provided is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. That's like saying a guy forgot to put the pucks out for warmups just because he gets paid low level so he can just fuck off and do what he wants. You still have a job to do. And it's like the hard part, like there aren't maintenance people for these bikes. There's the other team. They're your home team. Like you provide these are your bikes. Okay. If that bike's not working, you run into your room and you grab one of the 30 bikes you have in there and you put the other one out that works. This is not acceptable. There are ways around this. This isn't like you just, go to the workout to the gym store and you get a bike and then you have to worry about going and buying new pedals 10 days later because you found out the bike wasn't working. There's plenty of solutions to this. If you ask me, it's not out of fear, Ken. I disagree with you with that. I think it's just, frankly, I think it's assholery. If this is what has happened, that's what that is to me. It's
like we need to continue going down that road because we do have a reporter who covers the other team who has probably spoken to people on the other team saying this is not anything to see. However, I'm hoping tomorrow's broadcast is led off by a live shot from Linda Cohn next to those bicycles, just because I love drama in playoff series. It's amazing. I love the idea that we could potentially have the bike pedal series, and that's what this is remembering. This is amazing. Like, we need more of this. It's great. It's hilarious. This one, to me, it's petty. To me, it shows a lack of confidence. I know you disagree with that, but that's it. All right, let's make a prediction for the next game. I don't think that we should make predictions for all of the three before the next goalie interference because things change in a hurry, and it's very possible that after next game, we have no idea what's going to happen in game 3. So let's just pick game 2. Game 2, tomorrow night, T-Mobile Arena, missing bike pedals. Thursday, the 20th, that's tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Who we got?
3-2 Vegas.
In regulation?
Mike?
Ooh, that's a good question. I didn't even think of that. I could see an overtime win there.
Yeah, I could too here. I'm going to go 4-3 Vegas and OT. And I think they're going to score the first goal. I think they're going to score the first goal, but I think that they're going to have to come from behind in the third to tie it up. Not late. I think it'll be like 8 or 10 minutes left. So make sure we write all this down. So when I'm completely wrong,
this is recording
about it.
I don't know if you know that, but we actually record
Yes,
these shows and save them on YouTube. Not sure if you knew that. Maybe I should have told you that a while ago. Jeez. I am going Golden Knights. Yeah, I'm going Golden Knights 3, Winnipeg Jets 1. I believe that will be a low-scoring game again. I think the Golden Knights will score early, something in the first 9 minutes. That is my my stat that I looked at earlier in the season. I think that stands. I will take 1 goal in the first 9 minutes. Game kind of shuts down both ways for a majority of the game. Golden Knights get the empty netter to win the game 3-1. I will say Eichel gets 1 point tomorrow. It will come not on the first goal that really is the one that determines how the game is going to go. I do not expect a much different effort out of Jack Eichel because I don't know that it's there. Until I see it, I'm not going to be able to believe it. So that's where I'm at on him. Go ahead.
Gut feeling here. First star of the game. No idea why, but I'm going Chandler Stevenson.
Ooh. By the way, he is noted good guy today, and he deserves his noted good guy. If you haven't seen the picture, there's a picture of Morgan Barron's face leaking all over the ice, and Stevenson was actually the one who checked him into the skates, so maybe this lessens his noted good guy-ness. I don't know. Great father, great man. But there's a picture of him, like, with his arm around him, like, pointing to his face, like, hey, you're bleeding like really bad. We need to get you out of here. And he actually picks him up and like sends him on his way. And he was definitely concerned about it. He said that he spoke to Blake Wheeler pretty quickly, asking if it got his eye and if there was anything there. So good job, Chandler. This is bright arts. That's what we're looking for. Good guy stuff. Good job, Chandler.
Well,
I like you.
You're concerned about your
Thomas was looking for something positive.
I know, Thomas. Well, listen, here's the thing. This was
first of all, it's hockey. Yeah, it's hockey. It's playoffs. Get over yourself, Thomas. We're having some fun.
This was the pedal situation was enough of a story that it made 32 Thoughts and it's been a talk of the hockey world. So we had to touch on it. That's what.
And several general managers across the league were so concerned about it they reached out to Elliot.
And this is entertainment, people. The hockey playoffs are entertainment. This is fun. Bike pedals not being on the bikes is hilarious. Come on. This is funny. God damn it. Take everything so damn seriously, even though I'm going to take it very seriously and I'm angry about it, that I'm yelling, mad. This show is over. Thanks. Where should we do story time? You got one or you want to get out of here? We've gone pretty long because, once you get on bike pedals, it's hard to get off.
Well, I'll tell you a bike
story. Hard to get on
then.
bikes without pedals either. Go ahead. Bike story, go.
About 2.5 weeks before training camp, my last year pro, I took the hardest wreck of my life on a mountain bike, and I thought it was all over. I started, because I run like a wounded gorilla. I hate running. So years ago, I bought a mountain bike because I thought, this is something I might enjoy. And I did. I really enjoyed it. I still really enjoy it. And I haven't been able to ride it all because hockey's all encompassing. But I'm riding along. The turn's off camber, which means it's kind of falling away. And my wheels start to track out towards the outside of the turn. And my handlebar just clips this little sapling. And I'm telling you, that front wheel went straight to the ground and my shoulder went right after it. My whole left side was black and blue. And I thought, there's no way I didn't break my collarbone or my shoulder or something. I didn't. but I was black and blue, and I put the bike away that moment. That was the last bike ride of summer before my last training camp. But I showed up to camp, and I was still like kind of feeling the effects of that wreck. And it probably took me a month before I completely healed up from the hip pointer and everything else. And it scared the shit out of me when it happened. So it's funny because when I like you
This
do
was
these
in
things.
season, Mike?
No, this was before the season. But it was only about 2.5 weeks before. And so I was willing to take the trade-off of mountain biking because I enjoyed it and I got something out of it.
Can I ask you a very important question about your mountain bike to finish this show off?
Yes.
After so the front wheel goes hard down in, you go off to, was it your left or your right?
Yes, it was my left. Yeah.
You went off to your left pretty good. I imagine that, I'm just picturing how this is going in my head. I imagine that as it comes down, I would think, I'm not 100% sure if this is physics, I think the pedal would smash into the ground. Was the pedal fixed after you got on, or the next time you got on that bike?
I was clipped in, so the pedals were certainly there, and I rode that thing right into the ground. But yeah, I did have pedals. Small
bike
ones.
pedal series. Absolutely love it. That's it. Good night. Thanks to the Jimerson Law Firm for sponsoring every episode of Goalie Interference. Don't take the bike pedals talk that seriously. We're having fun, people. This is fun. We're having fun. Fix the bike pedals. Good night.